Back at it again at Krispy Kreme. Trying to knock out a quick one today. Oh my gosh, I'm an idiot. I got a cough drop in my mouth. That's going to be amazing for audio. I'm probably not going to keep any of this. Continuing on with Prep Test 90. Welcome back, LSAT Games. I do it. You enjoy my logical deductions, or, you know, I don't know why you watch them. Anyway, 6 co-workers, Faye, Gary, whatever, F, G, H, J, L, and M. Let's go ahead and write that down. F, G, H, J, L, and M. I got that COVID deep voice. Are planning to play table tennis during lunch, of course. There will be a total of 3 games of table tennis, each involving exactly 2 of the 6 co-workers. Each co-worker will play in exactly 1 game. The 3 games take place one after the other. The following conditions govern who plays in which game. Classic 2-dimensional order game. So interestingly, the first game in this section was also kind of a 2-dimensional order game, but the elements that we were placing, there were 5 of them for 5 spaces, and then there was just kind of a secondary characteristic we were keeping track of at the same time, whether they were local calls or non-local calls. You can see that game if you just click back in the playlist. This one's a little bit different. In this case, we've got a 2x3 setup basically. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. These are the games themselves. They said they go in order, so that's what's making me think this is an order game. And then in each case, I have the 2 coworkers. Now I'm going to set this up 2-dimensionally. You could theoretically almost set it up like a grouping game where you just have 2 items in each group, but I think it's probably going to make better sense to set this up 2-dimensionally. Let's go ahead and jump into the clues. Neither F nor G can play in the first game. So simple enough. Neither F nor G play in that first game. There's no particular reason you have to do this, but if you want, you could also say F cannot be first, G cannot be first. Generally speaking, any clue that you would set up with mathematical type symbols, it's better to find a different way to do that. So that's why I'm putting that right on the diagram. Neither Jasmine nor Luis can play in the third game. So again, mathematically, we would say J or L. Neither of them are third, but I'm just going to put that right on the diagram. J is not third, L is not third. F must play against either Gary or Henry. So either it's F over G or F over H. So we just want to remember that. Gary cannot play against Jasmine. So a classic, these 2 can't go against each other. G does not play J. All right, deduction-wise, this is a little tough. You know, I'm thinking maybe something is happening with G and J. Clearly they can't go second together, but like J could go first, G could go third. So I actually don't know that I would write that down as a full deduction. F is going to go either second or third against either G or H. But that's not quite enough for a deduction. I'm not seeing a lot of deductions to this game, so a couple possibilities. First of all, it may just be that this game doesn't have many deductions. Sometimes they don't. I would hope in that case that we would be looking at a bunch of specific questions. 7, 8, 9 are specific, so yeah, I'm not terribly worried about the lack of deductions. The other possibility, of course, is that there are several deductions here, but we're going to miss them because I'm going to jump into the questions right now. I'm not going to keep working on finding deductions. Remember, deductions are simply natural consequences of the rules. So as long as I'm following the rules, missing deductions isn't necessarily a huge deal. And the other thing I'll say is that as I work through those several specific questions, if I come to notice, oh, this can never happen, this always happens, I can always write that down as a deduction later. But being that I don't have that, let's go ahead and jump into the questions. Number 6, which one of the following could be the 3 games listed in the order in which they occur? Classic pick a clue style question, so we're just going to take each clue and eliminate any answers that violate that clue. Neither F nor G play the first game, so A, right off the bat, F can't play first. I don't see another problem for that one. Neither J nor L can play in the third game. L is playing third in B, so that's a problem. J and L, J and L. I don't see another problem there. F has to play against either G or H. So C is a problem. F against J is not a possibility. But D and E look okay. And then Gary can't play against Jasmine. Well, there it is. E, Gary against Jasmine. So number 6 has to be answer choice D. All right, always love a nice pick a clue style question to kind of work our way into the game. And now we can go ahead and jump into those specific questions. Let's just start with the next one, number 7. If Martha plays in the third game, Luis must play against blank. So let's set up our blanks. Martha's in the third game. What else can we say? Luis must play against blank. Interesting. Okay. All right, I think I see what's happening here. F, of course, course, has to go against either G or H, but that means that for sure J can't go second. And of course, we already said J can't go third. And so what's happening here is J has to go first, but for that matter, L also can't go third. And so L has to go first. So when they say Luis must play blank, the answer is Jasmine. So number 7 is going to be D. Sometimes you might want to set up 2 separate scenarios, F versus G, F versus H in this particular game. And I think we'll probably see this as we continue on. And this is probably also why there just weren't that many deductions in this game. I mean, we're only looking at 6 elements spread over 3 spaces. And so there's just not that much to change in this game. So if we need to, we can set it up separately, but I don't know that we will. Let's go ahead and jump into number 8 now. If Jasmine plays in the second game, which one of the following could be one of the 3 games? Interesting. Okay. So of course we got our 3 blanks. Jasmine is now in game 2, which means that F cannot go second. And we already know F never goes first. So F is going to have to go third here. Again, I'm going to set up either G or H as a coin flip against F in that third game. And then right now, I've got M, L, and the other of G or H. And actually, so I know that J never goes up against G. So that's either H or M. I feel like I'm missing something. Oh, and of course, G never goes first. So never mind. G for sure has to be the one that goes up against F now, which means that L for sure is going to have to go first. Now the MH, that's a coin flip. But in terms of what I know, oh, it didn't say must be. This was a could be. Okay, so F against H, no, that's not a possibility. F against M, not a possibility. G against L, not a possibility. G against M, not a possibility. So it has to be answer choice E. And as always, get out of the habit of actually checking. Though in this case, being that we eliminated the other 4 choices, it's not terribly difficult to see, yeah, that was one of our possibilities, L against either M or H. But again, just you want to be out of that habit. If we've done our process of elimination correctly and E is all that's left, E is the right answer. Move on. Let's go ahead and work number 9. Our last specific question? Yeah. If Faye plays against Henry in one of the games, which of the following must be true? All right, so basically they're saying it is this FH block. For number 9, let's bring down our 3 blanks. Do I want to set up both possibilities here? I think I do. I think I'm just going to go ahead and say, well, what if it's FH in slot 2? And then what if it's FH in slot 3? Now, of course, if it's FH in slot 2, that really limits me because J and L can't go third. So J and L would have to be first in that case. And then you end up with M against G in slot 3, which looks good to me. And in fact, of course, we know G and J can never go against each other. And G can't go first. So like in this other scenario, G would have to be second. And that would mean that J would have to be first. And then I think we just get a coin flip, LM or ML. But I think either one of those scenarios is okay. So let's see, what must be true? Faye plays in the second game. Well, that's possible. We see it here, but that's not a must be true. It doesn't happen in this other scenario. J plays in the first game. Yep, there it is. In both cases, J is in the first game. And so number 9 has to be C. All right, pretty good. This is an easy game. I'd say this is easier than the first game. The really order games, both of them 2-dimensional. There's not a huge difference in difficulty here. What was nice about the first game, if you do go back and look at that video, is it had even more specific questions than this one. But really, I would definitely, I can't imagine that the next 2 games are going to be this easy or easier. So for sure, I would work these first 2 games as the first 2 in my section. Let's go ahead and finish up with the general questions, 10 and 11. Number 10, exactly how many of the coworkers are there, any one of whom could play in the second game? Well, who have we seen? We've seen 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I mean, I think we've seen all 6 who could play in that second game. So I'm going to go with answer choice E. This is also why we do our specific questions before we get to these general questions. So now that we can just look at these scenarios and see, yeah, all 6 are possibilities for that second game. And of course, we didn't have any deductions at the beginning of this game. So working out these specific scenarios and then using them for the general questions is even more important than usual. All right, last question here, number 11. Which one of the following, if substituted for the condition that Gary cannot play against Jasmine, would have the same effect in determining who plays in which game? Okay, so I was wrong. This is not a general question. This is a complex question. And in fact, even for complex questions, this one is going to be pretty tough. Complex question, if you have one, will usually be the last question of the game. And what makes it complex is that it changes the rules of the game. Now, normally, what makes it hard is the fact that it changes the rules and therefore some of your deductions may no longer work. In this case, it's even harder than that because they're not asking us change the rule or like like do this rule instead and then work out some scenario. And that way, complex questions are often like specific questions, again, just with a new rule or a different rule. Instead, they're asking me, if you took this rule, G cannot play against J, but got rid of it in place of a different rule, which rule would have exactly the same consequence? It's hard to think through exactly the same consequences, so let's just say most specifically, we need a rule that also results in G never playing against J. If we can find that, I think we can be pretty confident that that's going to be the right answer. So let's play around with some of these and see if we can figure out what's what. A says if H plays first, G must play third. Well, let's set that up down here. Certainly if H is first and then G goes third, G and J can't play together because J never goes third. So for sure, if H is first, this works out the way that we would expect. But there's no reason H has to go first. What if we tried putting G and J together in slot 2? Again, this was actually, I did mention this at the beginning of the game. They're somewhat limited. They're not supposed to be together, but again, we've gotten rid of that rule for number 11. If they are together, they're going to have to go against each other in slot 2. And if we did that, you could easily imagine something like H against F in slot 3, still obeying this rule that F is always against either G or H, and then something like M and L in slot 1, which doesn't break any rules. So I'm pretty sure even if we obeyed answer choice A, we could get G and J together, so that's no good here. B, if Jasmine plays second, Gary must play third. Well, again, obviously, if Jasmine is second, that separates them, but can we get them together otherwise? Ooh, do you see the problem here? I do. So we already know that G can never go first, and what we're trying to do is get G and J together, but again, because J can never go third, that could only happen in slot 2. But this says if Jasmine plays second, Gary must play third, and so that requires that when Jasmine is there in second, G moves over to 3. So I'm pretty sure that is going to be the answer here. Now, I would say because this is a little tougher, this is kind of an exception to my rule that says don't check multiple answer choices once you have found your answer. I'm not 100% sure this is the answer, so I might just quickly look at the others. If Jasmine must play in the game before phase, no, I think that would be okay because we could put G and J together in 2, F and H in 3, M and L in 1. In fact, wasn't that? Yeah, that was our scenario down here. So J is still before F, but we're able to get G and J together, so that's not going to have the same consequence. Jasmine must play in the game immediately before Gary's. Ooh. I mean, that does require that they're not together, right? So either that would happen in 2 and 3, or it would happen in 1 and 2. Like if J is first, G is second, or J is second, G is third. But what else happens here? Well, for example, F never goes first, and so here F would have to be against G. And then what do we do with M, L, and H? I think we could kind of distribute them any way we want. What about the other scenario? We know L can't go third, but F and H could go third here. So it could be something like H there, F flipping around with something else, and then L and M just kind of flopping around. So that does result in J and G not being together, obviously, but I think it has another effect because we've seen scenarios where J and G aren't necessarily right next to each other. Yeah, number 9 was also such a scenario. So I think the problem with D is that it doesn't have the same effect. It actually affects even more. We can never end up with a scenario that we see on number 7 and number 9. So the game is not exactly the same. So for that reason, I would go ahead and cross off answer choice D, but it's a tough one here, no doubt. E, Gary cannot play against Luis. Well, I mean, you could easily put GJ in slot 2. Yeah, that's that same scenario we've been looking at. M and L here, F and H here. So clearly that does not have the effect of keeping G and J apart from each other. So I'm reasonably sure number 11 is B, but that is a tough one. That was a curveball there at the end. Goes to show you the ease or the difficulty of the game is not just about the setup. Again, I thought maybe this one was going to be about as easy, maybe even easier than the first game in this section. But based on that question alone, I mean, I'm not looking at the timer. I'm guessing that took me 2 or 3 minutes to work through. So you can see how even just a single question there can make a game quite a bit more difficult. I will also say, though, if pacing is troubling you, if it's hard to finish, just guess and move on, right? There's no special reason we have to spend all this time on a really tough question like number 11. All right, let's hope for the best. What do we got? D, E, C, E, B. Dedeceb, D, E, C, E, B. Very nice. Okay, got them all. Weird game. Weird question anyway. Number 11 kind of threw that one off. So the game's not too hard. Setup's not too hard. Again, we were actually pretty limited in what we could do with just the 6 elements here and only 3 spaces. But it worked out. We got them all. There you have it. I hope that was helpful. As always, comment down below with any questions you have. If there is a game you'd like me to work, I have moved to the end of the prep tests. I'm now working on prep test 90. I may not even do it in order after this. I might just kind of jump around. We'll see. I know that I have some games from prep test 67 that I need to go back to and finish up. So that'll probably be the next several videos, finishing up prep test 90 and then going to prep test 67. But as always, if there's a game you would like to see, comment down below. Let me know. If this was helpful, like and subscribe. Tell your friends about me, and otherwise, I will see y'all next time.